The day my son told me he was selling my house, the sky outside my kitchen window looked like it was holding its breath. I remember because the kettle had just clicked off, and the silence afterward felt too loud, like the world had leaned in to listen. My phone buzzed once on the counter. Then again. His name lit up the screen, Calder, my firstborn, the boy I carried through winters, fevers, and a divorce that hollowed me out years ago. I answered with a smile in my voice. I always did. Morning, Cal. He didn't return it. We're selling your house tomorrow, Mom, he said calmly. Too calmly. I've already spoken to the agent. The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered on the tile, but Calder kept talking, unaware or uncaring. The sound didn't even reach him through the phone. You'll stay with us for a while, he added, like this was a favor. It's for the best. I stared at the cracked floor, tea seeping toward my bare feet, and thought. He has no idea what I've already done. This house, Briar Hollow, wasn't just wood and stone. It was my spine. Built on the edge of a quiet Vermont town, where the mornings smelled like pine and damp earth, it had held me together after everything else fell apart. I bought it 32 years ago with money from my late husband's life insurance and a stubborn belief that starting over meant choosing silence over noise. Back then, Calder was 8. His brother Ivia was 5. They ran through the unfinished rooms with socks sliding on subfloor, laughing like the world had never taught them loss. Now Calder wanted to sell it tomorrow. I bent down, picked up the broken mug, and cut my finger. Blood bloomed, bright and sharp. I welcomed the pain. It grounded me. Mom? Calder said. Did you hear me? Oh, I heard you, I said softly. You're selling my house. Our house, he corrected. Technically. Dad left it to you, but you've decided I'm done with it, I finished. A pause. Then a sigh. The kind parents give children when they think they're being patient. You're not thinking clearly anymore, he said. After what happened last winter, we're worried. Last winter. The word scraped something raw inside me. I slipped on the ice, I said. I broke my wrist. That doesn't mean I'm senile. You were on the ground for hours. Because no one called me back. Another pause. This one heavier. We just want what's best, he said. Lisa agrees. Of course she did. Lisa, Calder's wife. All sharp cheekbones, neutral tones, and opinions that arrived fully formed. She'd never liked Briar Hollow. Said it was too isolated. Said it was unsafe. Said it would be a relief once it was gone. I'll be there tonight, Calder continued. The agent needs a final walkthrough. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. Of course, I said. Come by. I'll make dinner. He hesitated. You don't have to. I insist. When the call ended, I stood alone in the kitchen, blood still dripping onto tile, and listened to the house breathe around me. The old beams creaked softly, like they were waking up. They knew. I cleaned the cut, swept the mug, and moved through the house with a purpose that surprised even me. The living room still smelled faintly of cedar and the lemon oil I used every Sunday. Photos lined the mantel, Calder in his graduation cap, Ivy on a surfboard in Cornwall, their father Malric smiling in that half-shy way he had before the accident. I paused at the hallway closet and opened it. Behind the coats and boots, behind the false panel no one but Malric and I had ever known about, was the small steel safe. I knelt, spun the dial, and opened it. Inside lay the envelope. Thick. Cream-colored. Stamped. I hadn't touched it since the day I signed it. Hands shaking. Heart breaking. knowing it might cost me my relationship with my son if he ever found out. But it would also save me. I slid the envelope back and closed the panel. Tomorrow, Calder had said. He was late. By evening, the sky had turned the color of old bruises. I set the table for 3, habit, not hope, and roasted chicken the way Calder liked, with thyme and lemon. The house felt alert, as if it knew guests were coming who meant harm. Headlights swept across the front windows just after 7. I didn't move. The door opened without knocking. "Mom?" Calder called. In the kitchen. He entered first, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the same careful expression he used at work meetings. Lysa followed, heels clicking, eyes already scanning the walls like she was pricing them in her head. "Smells good," Calder said. "Sit," I replied. They did. Dinner passed with small talk stretched thin. Lysa mentioned a new cafe in town. Calder talked about interest rates. No one mentioned the house. Until dessert. "I packed some things for you," Lysa said lightly. "Just essentials. We can get the rest later." I looked at her. Really looked. "Did you go through my bedroom?" I asked. She smiled. "We didn't want to overwhelm you." Calder shifted. "Mom. You went through my things," I said again, slower. "We're helping," Lysa insisted. I stood, went to the hallway, and returned with the envelope in my hand. "I was wondering when you'd start packing my life for me," I said. "So I thought I'd give you something." Calder frowned. "What's that?" "A document," I said. "Signed. Filed. Registered." Lysa's smile faltered. "I changed my will," I continued. "And the house is no longer yours to sell." Silence crashed down hard enough to hurt. Calder stood. "That's not possible." "Oh," I said, meeting his eyes, "it is." He reached for the envelope. I pulled it back. "You'll get a copy tomorrow," I said. "Along with something else." "What else?" Lysa asked, her voice tight. I smiled again. This time, it wasn't gentle. "The truth about your father." Calder's face drained of color. "What do you mean?" he whispered. The lights flickered. And somewhere deep in the walls of Briar Hollow, something shifted, like a door unlocking after decades of waiting. Calder didn't sit back down. He stood there at the edge of the dining table, hands braced against the wood, eyes locked on the envelope like it might suddenly burst into flames. "You're not making sense," he said. "Dad died in an accident. Everyone knows that." Lysa's fingers tightened around her wineglass. She hadn't taken a sip since I mentioned Malric. "Sit," I said again. This time, my voice carried weight. Calder hesitated, then slowly lowered himself into the chair. The boy I once rocked through nightmares was gone. The man in front of me looked like someone bracing for bad news he didn't believe in. I didn't offer them dessert. Instead, I sat across from them and placed the envelope on the table, not within reach, but close enough to feel real. "Your father didn't just leave me this house," I began. "He left me instructions." Calder scoffed, but it sounded brittle. "Instructions for what?" "A scavenger hunt." "For survival," I said. The word settled uneasily between us. Lysa finally spoke. "With respect, this feels manipulative. You're upset about the sale, so now you're inventing." "I'm not inventing anything," I cut in. "And if you interrupt me again, you can wait outside." Her mouth snapped shut. I turned back to Calder. "You remember the winter he died?" "Of course I do," he said. "You made us hot chocolate every night, because the power kept going out." "That wasn't the reason," I said quietly. He frowned. What? The power never went out, I said. I just didn't want you hearing the phone calls. A memory stirred. Sirens in the distance, whispers behind closed doors. I saw it flicker across Calder's face, faint but there. You were 13, I continued. Old enough to notice things. Too young to understand them. Lysa shifted in her chair. This is getting inappropriate. Malric was an accountant, I said. But not the kind you saw during the day. Calder let out a sharp laugh. Dad did taxes. He cleaned money, I said. For people who didn't want it traced. The laugh died halfway out of his mouth. That's not funny, he said. I'm not joking. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second a small hammer. He stumbled into it, I went on. A client at first. Then a favor. Then a threat. By the time he realized he couldn't walk away, it was already too late. Calder shook his head. You're lying. I wish I were. Lysa stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Calder, she's confused. We should go. Sit down, Calder said, without looking at her. She froze. I leaned forward. The night he died, he wasn't driving home. Calder's breath caught. He was meeting someone, I said. Someone who knew he was about to talk. To who? Calder asked hoarsely. To the authorities. The word landed like a dropped plate. He had copies, I continued. Ledgers. Names. Accounts hidden behind shell companies across 3 countries. He planned to hand everything over and disappear. Disappear. Calder echoed. With us, I said. He wanted to take you boys and leave the country. Lysa's face had gone pale. He never made it, I said. The accident was encouraged. Calder stood again, knocking his chair backward. No. No, this is insane. He paced the length of the kitchen, hands in his hair. If this were true, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you go to the police? Because I was told not to, I said. He stopped. By who? I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Scrolled. Turned the screen toward him. A message thread. Old. Numbers instead of names. If you open your mouth, your sons disappear. Calder stared. That's fake, he whispered. I tapped the screen. Check the metadata. The dates. He didn't move. They watched the house, I said. 4 years. Cars parked too long. Men pretending to jog past the driveway. Every decision I made was about keeping you alive. Lysa sank back into her chair, suddenly unsteady. The will, Calder said slowly. The document, that's about this. Yes. I opened the envelope and slid out a copy, not the original, but enough. The house isn't just mine, I said. It's protected. It can't be sold without triggering legal alerts. Trusts. Clauses. Names you don't want to see dragged into daylight. Calder flipped through the pages with trembling hands. You signed this years ago, he said. The week after your father died. You cut us out, he said, voice breaking. You left us nothing. I met his gaze. I left you your lives. Silence swallowed us whole. Outside, wind rattled the windows, sharp and impatient. This can't still matter, Calder said finally. It's been decades. I shook my head. People like that don't forget. As if summoned by the words, headlights swept across the front yard. 3 slow passes. Lysa gasped softly. Calder turned toward the window. Is that? The knock came before he finished. 3 sharp raps on the front door. I stood. Don't answer it, Calder said. I have to, I replied. Mom. They've been waiting for you to come back, I said gently. Selling the house would have told them everything they needed to know. Another knock. Louder this time. I reached the door, heart steady in a way it hadn't been in years. When I opened it, a man stood on the porch, rain slicking his coat, eyes too calm. Mrs. Hale, he said, smiling thinly. We should talk. Behind me, Calder whispered my name like a prayer. And I knew. The past had finally caught up with us. The man knew my name. That alone told me everything I needed to know. Rain slid off the brim of his hat in a slow, deliberate rhythm, as if even the weather obeyed him. He stood just far enough from the doorframe to look polite, but close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, like cedar soaked in smoke. Mrs. Hale, he said again. May I come in? It's cold. Behind me, Calder moved. I felt it before I heard it, the instinct of a son stepping toward a mother, ready to shield her even when he didn't understand the danger. No, I said calmly. You may speak from there. The man smiled, the kind that didn't reach the eyes. Still careful. Malric always admired that about you. Calder stiffened. You knew my father, he said. The man's gaze slid past me to Calder, measuring him. Knew of him, he corrected. You must be the eldest. Calder, yes. My son's jaw tightened. You don't get to say my name. The man chuckled softly. Temper. He had that too. I stepped fully into the doorway, blocking his view. You should leave. Instead, he reached into his coat, not fast, not threatening, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He held it up between 2 fingers. We heard there might be a misunderstanding, he said. Something about the house. There's no misunderstanding, I replied. The house isn't for sale. Ah. He nodded. That's unfortunate. The porch light flickered. Calder whispered behind me, Mom, close the door. But the man leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. You see, he said, when properties like this change hands, it creates ripples. Paperwork. Attention. I know, I said. That's why it's staying put. His smile thinned. Then perhaps we should discuss alternatives. I met his gaze, unflinching. There are no alternatives. For the first time, something sharp flashed behind his eyes. Tomorrow, he said slowly, an agent is scheduled to arrive. If that doesn't happen, people will ask questions. Let them, I said. He straightened, smoothing his coat. You always were stubborn. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, he added lightly, tell your younger son Ivia we're glad he finally settled down. Cornwall is lovely this time of year. My breath left me all at once. He tipped his hat and walked into the rain. I closed the door with shaking hands and locked it. Calder was already at my side. How does he know about Ivia? I leaned my forehead against the wood. Because they never stopped watching. Lysa stood frozen near the table, face pale, eyes wide. We need to call the police, she said. I laughed. The sound surprised even me, too loud, too brittle. And tell them what? I asked. That a man with good manners and bad intentions mentioned my son's address. Calder ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. This is real, I said. And now you understand why I did what I did. He looked at me then, not with anger, not with disbelief, but with something closer to grief. You let us believe he just died, he said quietly. You let me blame myself for years. For not calling him that night. My heart cracked. I did it so you could sleep, I whispered. So you could grow up without looking over your shoulder. And now, he asked. I straightened. Now it's time to finish what your father started. That night, none of us slept. Calder paced the living room, stopping occasionally to stare out the windows like he expected the dark to stare back. Lysa sat rigid on the couch, phone clutched in her hand, scrolling news she wasn't reading. I went upstairs. The master bedroom still smelled faintly of Malric's aftershave, though I hadn't opened his drawer in years. I knelt beside the bed and reached under the frame, fingers brushing cold metal. The second safe was smaller. Hidden deeper. The one Calder didn't know about. Inside were copies, old but intact. Ledgers, flash drives, a handwritten note in Malric's careful script. If they come back, it read, it means they think the truth is gone. It isn't. I took the drives and slipped them into my robe pocket. When I returned downstairs, Calder looked up. What are you doing? He asked. What I should have done a long time ago, I said. I'm giving this to someone who can finish it. Who? Lysa asked. I hesitated. An old friend, I said. From before your father died. Calder's eyes narrowed. You never mentioned. Because mentioning him would have been dangerous, I said. Even now. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows hard enough to make Lysa flinch. Mom, Calder said carefully, if you do this, it won't stop. They'll retaliate. I know. And they'll come after us. They already have. Silence fell again, thick and heavy. Ivia doesn't know, Calder said. Not yet. We should tell him. I shook my head. Not until I'm sure. Sure of what? That this ends. Morning came grey and sharp. The agent arrived right on time. I watched her pull into the driveway from the front window, a woman in her 40s, clipboard in hand, smiling like this was just another listing. Calder moved toward the door. Don't, I said. I can handle it, he replied. You can't, I said gently. They are watching. He stopped. I opened the door instead. Mrs. Hale, the agent chirped. I'm Dorian Pike. Ready for our walkthrough? No, I said. The house isn't for sale. Her smile faltered. Your son confirmed. I'm the owner, I said. And the listing has been withdrawn. She frowned. I'll need that in writing. You'll get it. As she turned back to her car, I noticed a sedan parked farther down the road. Dark. Unmarked. Engine running. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message. Unknown number. You're making this difficult. I didn't reply. Instead, I picked up my coat. Where are you going? Calder asked. To end this, I said. With who? I met his eyes. The man your father trusted. Lysa stood abruptly. You're not going alone. I am, I said. This is my mess. Calder stepped forward. Then it's ours too. For a moment, I saw Malric in him, the same stubborn set of the jaw, the same fire. I nodded. Then get in the car, I said. And don't answer your phones. As we pulled out of the driveway, the dark sedan followed at a careful distance. I didn't look back at Briar Hollow. I had the sudden, sinking feeling that by the time this was over, nothing would ever be the same again. The road out of town curved like a scar through the trees, wet asphalt reflecting the low morning sky. I drove with both hands locked on the wheel, every sense sharpened, every mile pulling me farther from the quiet lie I'd lived for decades. Calder sat beside me, rigid. Lysa was in the back seat, silent now, her phone turned face down for the first time since I'd known her. In the rearview mirror, the dark sedan stayed exactly 3 car lengths behind us, never closer, never farther. Patient. Confident. They're not hiding anymore, Calder said. No, I replied. They don't need to. We passed the old mill bridge, then the diner with the cracked neon sign. I turned west instead of heading toward the interstate. Where are we going? Lysa asked. To someone who hates attention, I said. And loves ledgers. The place sat at the edge of a quarry road, an unmarked brick building with a boarded side window and a single light glowing inside. No sign. No parking lot lines. Just gravel and a sense of having arrived somewhere you weren't meant to find. I pulled in. The sedan slowed, then continued past us, disappearing around the bend. They're letting us go, Calder said. For now, I said. They want to see who I talk to. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and coffee burnt too long. Shelves lined the walls, heavy with binders. A bell tinkled when we entered. From the back room emerged a man with silver hair and a limp, Amon crest. His eyes found mine and softened, just a little. Althea, he said. I wondered when you'd come. Calder blinked. You know my mom. Amon's gaze shifted to him, assessing. I knew your father better. Calder's shoulders tightened. I hoped you wouldn't need me, Amon said, gesturing us in. But hope is a luxury. We sat around a scarred table. I placed the flash drives between us like a confession. They came back, I said. They mentioned Ivea. Amon's jaw set. Then Malric's insurance worked too well. They thought the trail was dead. It isn't, I said. And I'm done hiding. He nodded slowly. Once this starts, there's no pause button. I know. Calder leaned forward. What exactly are those? Keys, Amon said. To accounts, names, and proof. Enough to wake sleeping dogs. And get us killed, Lysa said quietly. Amon looked at her. Truth has a cost. Silence does too. He turned to me. I'll need time to verify. Then I make calls. The right ones. How much time? I asked. Not much, he said. They won't wait. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Last chance. I slid it across the table. Amon read it and exhaled through his nose. They're pushing, he said. Good. Means they're nervous. A knock sounded at the door, sharp, impatient. Calder shot to his feet. They followed us. Amon raised a hand. Sit. The knock came again. Louder. Amon walked to the door and opened it a crack. A man stood there, rein on his shoulders, smile rehearsed. Wrong place, Amon said flatly. The man's eyes flicked past him, caught mine, then returned. We're looking for Mrs. Hale. She's not here, Amon said. The man smiled wider. Then perhaps you'll pass along a message. No, Amon replied, and closed the door. Lock slid into place. Silence pressed in. That won't stop them, Calder said. No, Amon agreed. But it buys us minutes. He gathered the drives. You should go. Where? Lysa asked. Amon met my eyes. Somewhere public. Loud. Cameras. I stood. You'll do it. He nodded. For Malric. And because I'm tired of men like that thinking they own endings. We left through the back. We drove toward the city. Traffic thickened, horns blared, people hurried past with coffee cups and earbuds. We blended in. For the first time that day, my chest loosened. We ducked into a crowded market near the river. Music thumped. Vendors shouted. Lisa exhaled like she'd been holding her breath underwater. This is insane, she said. All of it. Yes, I said. And it's almost over. My phone rang. A different number. I answered. Althea, Amon said. They are moving assets. Fast. That means exposure is imminent. How imminent? Hours, he said. Maybe less. I closed my eyes. Do what you have to do. I will, he said. But there's something you should know. My heart stuttered. What? Malric didn't just keep copies, Amon said. He set a trigger. A trigger. If anything happened to you, he said, everything would release automatically. I stopped walking. Calder turned. Mom? You never told me, I whispered. I didn't know until now, Amon said. It's time-stamped. Old. But active. So if they hurt her, Calder began. They burned themselves, Amon finished. The call ended. We stood there amid the noise, the river flashing silver behind us, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Leverage. A shout rose behind us. I turned. The man from my porch stood at the edge of the market, eyes scanning. When they found me, his smile vanished. Run, Calder said. No, I said. Walk. We walked straight into a police substation set up for the weekend crowd. Officers looked up as we entered. I'd like to report a threat, I said clearly. And provide evidence of financial crimes. Behind us, the man hesitated, then turned away. Calder gripped my hand. You planned this, he said softly. I planned to survive, I replied. Hours later, as statements were taken and files transferred, Amon's name appeared on screens I couldn't see. Phones rang. Doors closed. The world shifted. Night fell. When they finally let us go, my phone buzzed one last time. We're done. No signature. I deleted it. As we drove back toward Briar Hollow, exhaustion settled into my bones, but beneath it, a calm. What happens now? Lisa asked. I watched the road unwind. Now, I said, we live with the truth. Ahead, the lights of home crested the hill. I didn't know what would be left standing when we arrived. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid to find out. Briar Hollow was still standing when we returned, but it felt different, like a witness that had finally been called to testify. The porch light glowed warm against the night, steady and unafraid. No cars idled down the road. No shadows lingered too long near the trees. The house breathed slowly, deeply, as if it had been holding its breath for decades, and had finally decided to exhale. I shut off the engine, and sat there longer than necessary. This is where it ends, I said. Calder didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. Or where it starts. Inside, the house welcomed us with familiar sounds, the soft creak of floorboards, the ticking clock, the faint hum of the refrigerator. Lisa slipped off her shoes without being asked. It was a small thing, but it mattered. I hung my coat and rested my palm against the wall, grounding myself in the cool plaster. I had leaned against this same wall the night Malric didn't come home. I had slid down it, shaking, whispering promises to ghosts. Now I stood upright. We gathered in the living room, the same room where Calder had taken his first steps, where Ivia once built a fort out of couch cushions, where Malric used to read aloud in the evenings when the world felt safe. "I need to call Ivia," Calder said. I nodded. "It's time." He stepped outside, voice low, pacing the porch. I watched through the window as his posture shifted, shock, disbelief, anger, then silence. Finally, he leaned against the railing, head bowed. When he came back in, his eyes were wet. "He's coming," he said. "First flight." Good, I thought. Let him come home to the truth, not the lie. Sleep came in fragments that night. I dreamed of ledgers turning into birds, pages tearing themselves free and filling the sky. I dreamed of Malric standing at the edge of the woods, watching, not sad, not afraid, just waiting to see if I would finally stop hiding. When morning arrived, it came with sirens. Not near the house, farther away, toward town. But the sound carried, sharp and undeniable. Calder met me in the kitchen, already dressed. "Phones are blowing up," he said. "News alerts." I poured coffee with steady hands and turned on the television. Words scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Major financial network exposed. Multiple arrests pending. A familiar name appeared. Then another. Companies I had learned to ignore. Men who once thought themselves untouchable. Lysa covered her mouth. "They are saying it started with an anonymous release," Calder said. I smiled faintly. Anonymous doesn't mean accidental. The anchor continued, voice urgent, talking about sealed indictments, international cooperation, evidence dating back decades. Decades. I carried my mug to the window and watched the morning light filter through the trees. Somewhere in that light was the younger version of myself, the woman who had chosen silence over justice, safety over truth. I didn't regret it. But I was done paying for it. By afternoon, the house was full again. Ivia arrived with travel creases in his clothes and worry etched deep into his face. He hugged me so tightly it knocked the breath from my lungs. "You should have told me," he said hoarsely. "I know," I whispered into his shoulder. "I'm sorry." We sat at the kitchen table, the four of us, and I told him everything. Not the softened version. Not the mother-approved edit. The truth, sharp edges and all. When I finished, he stared at his hands for a long time. "So when Calder said you changed the will," he began. "I didn't take from you," I said quickly. "I protected what mattered." Ivia nodded slowly. "The house." "And you," I said. "Both of you." Calder cleared his throat. "I tried to sell it." Ivia looked up, startled. "I know," I said before either of them could spiral. "And I forgive you." Calder's head snapped up. "Just like that?" "No," I said honestly. "Not just like that. But I understand now what I didn't then. Fear makes people reach for control." Lysa shifted. "I pushed for it," she said quietly. "I didn't know. But I didn't listen either." I studied her face, the ambition, the defensiveness, the crack of guilt finally breaking through. "This house has taught me something," I said. "Walls remember. But they don't hold grudges." She swallowed. "I want to do better." "That's all anyone can do," I said. The lawyer arrived 2 days later. This time, it wasn't about selling. We sat in the same living room, papers spread across the coffee table. Trusts were amended. Safeguards refined. Ownership clarified, not just of the house, but of the truth tied to it. "The property remains under your control," the lawyer confirmed. with provisions that ensure no forced sale without your consent. Calder exhaled slowly. Good. And, the lawyer added, glancing at me, there are protections in place should anything happen to you. I met Calder's eyes. You don't need to sell this place to move forward, I said. You just need to stop running from it. He nodded once. I was wrong. That mattered more than any apology. The knock came late that evening. Not sharp. Not threatening. Measured. I opened the door to two officers and a woman in a dark coat who introduced herself with a badge and a careful tone. Mrs. Hale, she said. We have some follow-up questions. An update. I listened as she explained. Charges filed, networks dismantled, protections in place for witnesses, for families. For what it's worth, she said, softer now, your husband's information changed things. I closed my eyes briefly. Thank you, I said. He wanted that. After they left, I stood on the porch alone, the air cool against my skin. Stars dotted the sky like quiet promises. Calder joined me, leaning against the railing. You knew they'd come back, he said. Yes. And you stayed anyway. I built my life here, I said. I wasn't going to let fear evict me. He was quiet for a moment. I tried to make decisions for you, he said. Because I was scared of losing you. I reached for his hand. Then we were both afraid. He squeezed my fingers. I see you now. That was everything. Weeks passed. The town buzzed with rumors, with names whispered too loudly at the grocery store. Briar Hollow became a landmark again, not for what it hid, but for what it had endured. I repainted the kitchen. Opened windows I'd kept shut for years. Laughter returned, hesitant at first, then fuller. One afternoon, Calder found me in the attic, sorting through old boxes. You're really staying, he said. Yes. For good. I smiled. For as long as the house and I agree. He laughed softly. I pulled out a final box, Malric's handwriting on the lid. Inside were photos I hadn't seen in years. Him holding the boys. Him holding me. A life interrupted, not erased. Calder sat beside me. He would have been proud, he said. I nodded. He trusted me. And now, I trust myself again. On the first quiet night after everything settled, I sat alone in the living room, lights low, the house wrapped around me like an old coat. I thought about the phone call. We're selling your house tomorrow, Mom. Calder hadn't known what I'd already done. But now he did. The house was never just bricks and beams. It was a promise. A shield. A witness. And it was still mine. I placed my palm against the floor and felt the steady strength beneath it. Some homes are meant to be sold. Others are meant to be survived. And this one remembered everything.